So that brings us up to, you know, you're doing the hair band thing and doing the music scene, kind of bopping around there, and
yeah, and then I met. I didn't really try my hand at sculpting until I met Gabor. I met a crazy Hungarian named Gabor at this barbecue, and no, I'm sorry. I was sculpting, but not anything jewelry. I should clarify that. I was doing like clay stuff, but I wasn't doing anything wax, no jewelry, like smaller stuff. So he saw something, Gabor saw something I did in clay and was like, hey, I really like that skull you did. You know, I'd like to show you how to make those into metal.
Right.
And so I was like, cool. So then I saw what he was doing. He was trying to do a catalog. The shots that he had were so shitty, so I said, man, there's a way better way to do this. So then we start putting our heads together, and next thing you know, like within a month of meeting him, I was living at his house and we were working on a catalog. And that was 6 months, man, 6 months. And I'm allergic to cats, and he had 13 cats. 13! Turkish Angoras. You know what those are, man?
Big hairy things. Before, like.
I was
but
dying.
real quick, because a lot of people might not know who Gabor is or what he means to kind of the
he's like
silver industry, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, he's like the forefather of the whole movement. Like he trained some of the guys at Chrome Hearts. He didn't train Stanley or anything. Stanley was Stanley Guess.
Right.
He was one of the guys from Chrome Hearts, Leonard Camhout. But Gabor really started the whole big silver look. Like the big silver chains and big skulls and stuff, and he kind of you know, pioneered that whole thing and launched off and kicked off in Japan, and it just blew up.
Right.
You know? Because when I first met him, he wasn't over in Japan, and then I saw that whole thing, how it happened. Next thing you know, I mean, there were guys coming to the shop, Japanese guys, and they'd hand him 300 grand in a paper bag, and then he'd give it to me to take home. And then I was driving in my Land Cruiser with 300 grand next to me in a paper bag. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you couldn't write a script like that, right?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. So that it got pretty fun over there for a while, you know.
And so at what point did you, I mean, it obviously kind of leads into the Starlingear thing, right?
Yeah, well, he passed away January 17th, 1999. He passed away, and about 3 months after he died, his agent, his Japanese agent, came to me and asked me if I wanted to start my own line, because I had my shifter. Starlingear was in existence, but it was just shift knobs.
So I started the bigger aluminum.
Yeah, the name Starlingear comes from my good friend Charles. His real name is Starling, and I always liked that name. I always loved that name. So originally it was Starlingear shifters, because it was just shifter knobs, aluminum shifters, and then I dropped the shifters because I knew I wanted to go more than that. So it just dropped to Starlingear, and I had, the reason, you want to hear the real reason that I started Starlingear, it's kind of funny, because I made the original skull, which is right up here. It's this one.
Ninja moves.
Here.
That wasn't CGI'd, by the way.
It's this one.
So this is the...
That's the first, that's the one that Gabor saw that he was so interested in.
Wow. So this actual piece here.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Gabor, he bought into that with me. He said, I want to buy 75% of the rights to that. He's like, how much do you want? And I was like, I don't know. It's like, whatever. And he gave me $5,000. And I was like, you know, I was like, woo. Yeah. So, but then I said, hey man, let's get this thing going. Let's get this thing going. And he just kept dragging his feet, and after it was almost 2 years, because I did this in '94. And then it was 2 years later when we had a big fight. I was like, dude, let's do something with this, you know, because after he bought into it, I couldn't make a move with it.
You can't do it without him because he's got 75%. Yeah.
So then he bought into it probably in around 96, and then come 98, you know, we had a big fight, and I was like, fuck it, man, I'm doing my own thing. So I said, if I can do this one, I can do another one. So I sat down and started sculpting the Slicksters, you know it today, like the
iconic,
yeah,
the one.
yeah. And as you can see, it changed, and I lifted the other eyebrow,
right,
just in case he tried to come after me, you know, for that. Like I was all paranoid, you know. So.
Well, the guy with 300 grand in a paper bag. I don't know if you're worried about lawyers at that point, right? You might be worried about, you know, guys with vice grips and stuff, you know.
I wanted to make it a little different, so I did the Slickster that's now, and then I didn't only remember what I said about spite.
Right.
Like I'm just a spiteful fucker, so I didn't just do this. I did like 4. I did the top hat. I did, you know, I did multiple different ones. And the next thing you know, I had 8 different designs. And I ran into him at the polisher, which was over here in the valley. I hadn't seen him in probably close to 6 months because we had this huge fight. And he goes, "What are you doing, boy?" He used to always call me boy. And so I go, "Check this out." I couldn't wait to show him. So I opened, and it was perfect because I had this Halliburton, and I had them all in there, and I opened it up. And he's like, "Oh, you're one crafty Mexican." And so it was 2 days after that, he called me up at night. He's like, "Hey, you know, what are you doing? We got a lot of work to do." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "We got a lot of work to do. You need to get back to work and stop, you know, doing this other stuff." And I was like, "Dude, I don't work for you anymore, man. I'm fucking doing my own thing." And he goes, "It's like the mafia, dude. You can't just not work with me, you know." So I went over and met up with him, and I said, "Look, dude, if you even want to talk, you got to pay me the money that you owe me." And he paid me my money right there, and then I brought one of the Slickster.
Yeah.
And I put it next to this one because he had one of these on his bar, and he's like, "So what's it going to take to buy into this one? The new one? The new stuff?" And I go, "No, you don't get to buy into anything." And he told me, "That's okay because I like this one anyway. It looks better than these." And I told him to be honest. I said, "You can honestly," I put the Slickster in front of him and I put this one, and I said, "You can honestly tell me that this one is better than this one." And then he looked at them both. He picked them up and looked at them both, and he chucked this one across the room, and he goes, "You sold me a piece of shit for $5 grand, you motherfucker." Yeah. So he was all pissed off. It didn't last, but it was pretty funny. Yeah, the whole thing. So so I started up with him again, designing his new packaging design. We were about to do this whole new release for him, and he passed away after, when we came back together. He passed away within a month and a half.
Well, so that's kind of cool. You had that chance to reconcile with the mentor, you know.
Definitely, man. I think it would have really affected me if I didn't, you know, because it's just a matter of him owing me money. It wasn't like he, you know, burned my fucking house down.
Right.
He did wreck my car several times, but
what are mentors for?
Yeah, right. Drove through the roof of my Land Cruiser, kicked my door in, broke my window. That was in my apartment. That was the size of the car.
Because you artist guys are nuts.
He was not. I think I'm pretty normal. I would say normal or rational for, I think, somewhat.
So after he passed, was that kind of like almost like the message, it's like, hey, it's time to full speed ahead?
Yeah, well, they got really backed up with orders. I helped him through a real slump, and then his wife fired me like 2 months later. Like she was handling, oh, you saved the company, this and that, and then like 2 months later, she gave me my walking papers, which was really the purpose was that she wanted me to come begging for my job back and then cut my salary in half, and I was like, fuck off. So I really just put all my energy towards my paintings and Starlingear. But then it was a year after he passed away. I said, okay, I'm ready to do this, and I started going more towards, you know, jewelry and stuff like that, and then I hooked up with his agent. Wanted to be my agent. That didn't work out. He was just full of shit, and then I was just kind of, you know, I was talking to him still, and I met my current agent, who's my agent now. I met him just through this weird, random kind of way. And he really loved all these shifters, loved my paintings, loved everything. And he said, you know, what are your plans? I said, my plan is to do a jewelry line. And he's like, all right, I want to be your agent. You know, he goes, just make a sample line and we'll meet at Vegas, at Magic in Vegas. And I'll pay you for the sample line. And so I was like, all right. So then I just fucking started making jewelry. You know, it was like thrown into the deep end, you know.
Yeah.
And so I just started hauling ass, and you know, got the line together, and that's when Chemo took photos of the whole thing when we met in Vegas, and they counted money out, and it was crazy.
Oh,
it was
so
pretty
cool.
cool.
You know, you mentioned Chemo, you know, back at the, you know, at the beginning of the kind of the beginning of the company, so to speak, and one of the things that struck me about Starlingear, you know, as I, you know, get to peek behind the curtain a little bit, is that really it's not IBM. I mean, it's kind of like
yeah, people think it's a much bigger company.
You know, I kind of joke sometimes too. It's like it's almost like a gang, man. It's blood in, blood out. You know,
yeah.
And so it's really kind of a tight knit group of guys and friends. I mean, it's
because like Greg Everett, we worked with Gabor. You know, Greg worked for Gabor, so I've known Greg for a long time. Chemo was there from the beginning. Jade was there a couple years after it started, and you know, we don't really. I don't look for employees. I don't look for, you know, you really have to come like Jade proved his worth, you know, for a long time. You know, he worked. You know, because it was just me and Chemo would help me with assembly and stuff, but it was, you know, it was just me finishing and all this stuff, and then Jay came in and put in the hours and really, like, you know, didn't demand, I need to make this, I need to make it. Just kind of like just happened real organically, and that's how things have to happen with this kind of company. It just has to happen. You know, just. It's one of those things.
It's not the type of situation where you bring him in for his quarterly review, or you know, I mean, it's
there's a lot of
trust. It's a lot of just a lot of trust, and
you know, there's a tremendous amount of trust between us all, because you know, why would you want to fuck up a good thing? It's that kind of thing. Like, everyone's for the better of the.
Yeah, and plus, nobody can quit. You know, you don't get out once you you don't. It is like the mob, so you know, you better perform, or you know, go behind the ear. No, I just wanted to touch on that. That's one of the things that struck me was, you know, just that the tight knitness of it. You know, a lot of companies kind of have a revolving door, and a lot of bad blood of, you know, of relationships severed, or you know, ego and everything else.
I think ego mostly. Mostly it's ego. I know I'm not going to mention names of other lines, but I know that, you know, people have had problems with other people's egos, and they've left. You know, and they're shit talking and this and that. It's like, you know. Yeah, in order for me to get ahead, I got to step on your neck, you know, type of thing, you know. Yeah, and I just, like, even if Starlingear didn't sell tomorrow, like, say everybody just got up and said, fuck it, nobody in the world wanted any more Starlingear, I would still, you know, be able to paint and do things and create other businesses where, you know, I think Jade would be good in the capacity of another business, but you know, if I just started some, you know, there's the gazillion businesses to start. I think the same crew could bring the same energy and start up a whole nother thing, you know?
Right.
Because I've got ideas for days, and really,
let's touch on that. You know, I know some of the things that, you know, that you're involved in that maybe some other folks don't know about. You know, some of the interior design stuff and stuff that you don't normally associate with a
guy that makes skulls.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was doing, I like restaurant design and interiors and stuff a long time ago. It's something that I do just for fun. I mean, I do it to make money too, but it's kind of a fun thing for me.
Right.
It takes a lot of time, so I don't take as many of those jobs. But yeah, I still keep my chops honed, you know, with all that stuff, and then still painting. You know, designing, you know, on the computer, doing, you know, t-shirt designs, laying out all the graphics for the knives, and I mean, I just love being creative. Period. Like, if it's creative, I want to do it. You know.
Yeah. Why haven't I seen any fleur-de-lis in any of your? Why can't you knock some of that out?
Oh, yes.
I guess it's kind of a funny way of asking the question, right? Of you know, a lot of these. Especially in the silver business, right? I mean, talk about dead horses, you know. And
see, that's the thing.
You know, and it's like Starlingear's got this huge line with so many things, and you know, that are that don't include that, you know.
And truly, I just try to. If I'm not into it, I don't want to do it.
Right.
I'm not into fleur-de-lis. I'm not French. I'm not of that whole, you know, mindset. I don't subscribe to doing, you know, it's just something that's been done, like you said, done to death. And people could say the same thing, well, skulls have been done to death. Yes, skulls have, but not my skulls.
Yeah.
All of them, I strive to keep mine different. I've proven, because someone said, oh, you can only do so many skulls. Well, on paper, I have 30 more at least. And that's what I thought of 2 weeks ago.
That nobody,
you know, and it's endless. It's endless. And you know, I there's been times where I've gone, okay, I gotta make something other than skulls because people are gonna get burned out. But then I'll make something else, and people will go like, well, where's the skulls? You know, like you know, like in Japan, they get all uppity when I don't do skulls, man. They want, so you know, it's like that band that. It's like Metallica is the example I use. I used to ride Rams, and when I used to freestyle on my bike, that we'd all listen to Metallica to get amped up, and then you do crazy shit. And then, you know, once Bob Rock got a hold of them and produced them, and then there was like, where did Metallica go? Master of Puppets was their last album, as far as I'm concerned, and that was it. And so I always kept that in mind, like on a business level, you can't, I mean, they got a bunch of more big success, like blowing it out, but still those core fans were bummed, because I'll never forget that feeling. You know, when I
can't really front on Injustice for all that much, though. But go ahead. I don't need to take over the interview and turn this into rock line or something.
But you can't ride a ramp to And Justice for All. You can fuck to And Justice for All, but you can't ride a ramp to. You can't get amped off of that. Ride the lightning, man. You can get amped off of that.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So, but I just never wanted to, you know, I don't want to let the core people down. You know, I have a real sensitivity to that, to just staying true. You know, my style's definitely evolved. Like I enjoy carving so much more now than I used to. I just I can't wait to see where the lines take me and to see what comes out, you know. I really enjoy that part, you know.
Well, and then also, like we touched on, there's other outlets for, you know, you've gone in other directions, other businesses, other outlets for that additional, you know, kind of creative impulses. So I guess back to the Metallica analogy, you'd almost rather see like James Hetfield do a country album, get it out of his system, right, and then come back like kicking ass, rather than, you know, mid-tempo bullshit. So, like, in other words, the unit of Metallica is still Metallica. So, like, the Starlingear remains Starlingear. If you get a hair up your ass, you can, you can express that in other mediums or other, formats.
If I want to do like a real girly line, because I want to hit a girls' market or a kids' market. I've got a project right now I'm doing for like kids and young girls, and that's completely separate from Starlingear. It's like my paintings, my fine art, in terms of like not the skulls, but the blues players and all that stuff. A lot of people, when I was trying to market that stuff, which I just don't anymore, but people were so jazzed on it, and then they'd see like all the skull stuff that I do, and they go, "Oh, don't let anybody see that." And it's like, wow, people can't separate it. So I definitely always have that kind of thing in mind, where I just keep certain things just they don't fit that Starlingear image. Right. Starlingear is hot rod and cool lines and just bitchin' eye candy. I just want to make stuff that people see and they just have to have, because nobody needs it.
Yeah, it's
just
not,
something
it's
that
not insulin, or something, right? You
need food, air, and water. That's what my parents used to say.
So what we kind of touched on also on the